It started like any other quiet Tuesday. There was nothing unusual in the air, no sign, no warning, not even a bad feeling in her gut. Anna had just finished her grocery run. Her hands were full of little comforts, eggs, a bag of flour, garlic, her favorite chamomile tea. She hummed to herself as she walked. Well, not really a song, more like the rhythm of peace. It had been a good day. She even thought about surprising Daniel with his favorite pasta tonight. She was halfway across the crosswalk, stepping off the curb, distracted by a text notification lighting up her phone screen. She reached for it. That was the moment she didn't see him, a cyclist, moving way too fast for that narrow street. He shouted something, but the words didn't matter. She didn't register them. What she did register was the blur of blue, the sudden slam of handlebars brushing against her grocery bags, the slip, her ankle twisted, time slowed. And then it all came crashing down. Her head hit the pavement with a sound she wouldn't remember, but her body would. The pain was white hot, blinding, but it lasted only a second. Then everything faded into stillness. Not unconsciousness, not sleep, just absence. She woke up to a ceiling she didn't recognize, the sterile white tiles, the mechanical hum of something near her, though she couldn't hear it yet. A man's face leaned over her. Daniel. His mouth was moving quickly, panic etched across his forehead, but she heard nothing. No voice, no background beeping, no footsteps, not even the rasp of her own breath in her throat. It was like someone had switched off the world. Her heart raced. She blinked hard. She tried to speak, tried to form one word, Daniel's name, but even her own voice didn't come back to her. It was gone. Everything was gone. When the doctor came in, she only realized he was speaking by the way his lips moved, slow, pronounced, mechanical, like every syllable was being carefully translated into motion. Daniel grabbed her hand, tight, his grip warm but trembling. She turned to him, desperate, confused, but he just mouthed 3 words. "You can't hear." She didn't cry right away, not because she was strong, but because her mind was still catching up, still denying. "I just fell," she thought. "It's a concussion, a few hours, maybe a day." But deep down, something darker settled in her chest, a kind of stillness she didn't know how to fight. This wasn't just a fall. This wasn't just a hospital visit. This was the beginning of something else, something she couldn't name yet, but would soon come to fear more than the silence itself. The next morning, Dr. Patel walked in with a clipboard, a measured smile, and eyes that said everything the words wouldn't. She sat beside Anna's hospital bed and began explaining with slow, deliberate movements of her mouth, over-pronouncing every syllable so Anna could try to follow. Temporary sensory neural hearing loss. The words moved across her lips like shadows Anna couldn't quite hold. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, gripping Anna's hand like he was trying to tether her to reality. He kept glancing at Dr. Patel, then back at Anna, his expression carefully neutral. But his fingers tightened just slightly when the word temporary came up again. Temporary, they said, but no one really knew. The doctor mentioned trauma to the auditory nerve, that it could take days or weeks, maybe longer, maybe never. "We've seen some patients recover fully," Dr. Patel explained, "and others only regain partial hearing. Time will tell." Anna nodded, pretending she understood, but all she felt was fog. Time will tell. But time doesn't talk to people who can't hear. At home, she tried everything. She downloaded transcription apps that converted speech to text in real time. She carried around a notepad. She practiced reading lips in the mirror. She even tried learning basic sign language from YouTube videos at night. But nothing filled the silence. And worse, the silence wasn't just around her. It was between her and Daniel. He smiled less, touched her shoulder instead of hugging her, started talking more to the walls than to her face. Anna began to notice something terrifying. She wasn't just losing her hearing, she was fading from the conversation, from the room, from his heart, and no doctor could diagnose that. In the beginning, Daniel was everything Anna needed him to be. He was calm when she was panicking, he was patient when she struggled to understand, and when words failed them, he found other ways to say what mattered. The first night home from the hospital, she found a yellow sticky note on her nightstand. It said, "I love you. I always will." The handwriting was rushed, like he had written it with trembling hands. She pressed it to her chest and cried silently. The next morning, he made her tea and placed a new note beside the cup. "You're not alone." He downloaded apps to help translate his voice into text in real time. He showed her how to use them, how to tap when confused. He pointed to things around the house and mouthed their names slowly. He even learned the sign for "I'm here," and he used it often. In those first 2 weeks, Anna believed love could survive anything. She believed this was their challenge, their test, their story to fight through together. And in a way, it was. But she didn't know then that sometimes love wears masks, and the one Daniel wore was starting to crack. It didn't happen all at once. The shift was subtle, quiet. The kind that creeps in like fog, soft at first, until you realize you can't see what's real anymore. One morning, Anna noticed that there was no note by her tea. Not a huge deal. Maybe Daniel was just running late. The next day, still no note, no smile, no gentle tap on her shoulder. He handed her the tea without looking up from his phone, didn't mouth "good morning," didn't wait for her eyes to meet his. And then the notes stopped altogether. He still talked, but not to her. He'd walk past her and mutter something as he left the room, but never faced her when he did. And if she tapped his arm, confused, asking him to repeat it, he'd sigh. Quiet but sharp, like it was exhausting to be interrupted. He no longer tried to be understood, just said his piece and moved on. And the phone? He never used to hide his phone. It used to sit openly on the table, notifications buzzing without concern. But now, it was always face down, always within reach. And when he left the room, it went with him, even into the bathroom. At first, Anna told herself she was overthinking, that he was just tired, distracted, stressed. But deep down, something whispered, "This is not the same man who left you a note that said, 'I love you.' No, this was someone else. Or maybe this was who he had always been, and she had only just started to hear it." The knock on the door came early on a Thursday morning. Anna wasn't expecting anyone. She was sitting at the kitchen table, quietly scrolling through a recipe book, one of the few things she could still enjoy without needing sound. When Daniel opened the door and said, "Mom," with surprise but a forced kind of joy, Anna's stomach dropped. Grace, of course. She swept in wearing a lavender coat and a perfume that filled the entire living room within seconds. "I thought I'd stay a few days," she mouthed cheerfully, her eyes flicking to Anna just long enough to count as polite. Anna gave a nod and a small smile. She didn't have the energy to fake more than that. Later that evening, Grace made soup. "Chicken noodle, just like my son likes," she said. She even brought Anna a bowl with a sprig of parsley on top, smiled, sat across from her, asked how she was feeling, touched her hand gently like a doting mother. Anna signed, "Thank you," not sure if Grace understood or even cared. But that wasn't the point, because Grace wasn't here to care. She was here to be seen caring. And then it began. The quiet whispering when Daniel wasn't in the room, the glances over the rim of her teacup, the way she'd turn just slightly away when speaking just enough to make lip reading hard. But Anna had gotten good at it. So good, in fact, that even the fragments broke her heart. "She's a burden," Grace had said one afternoon, sitting on the couch while Anna folded laundry nearby. He gave up his life for her. Anna froze mid-fold. Grace wasn't talking to her. She wasn't even looking her way. She was speaking like Anna wasn't even in the room. And in Grace's mind, maybe she wasn't. It's strange, Anna thought. You can tell when someone stops seeing you long before they stop being near you. Daniel didn't slam doors. He didn't yell, he didn't storm out, or leave voicemails at midnight. He just stopped looking. It started small. He'd speak to her without turning his face toward hers. He'd set things down beside her without waiting for acknowledgement. He'd walk into the room and right past her, eyes focused on anything, everything but her. Anna watched him the way she used to watch sunsets, quietly, reverently, as if hoping that holding still long enough might make him turn back. But he didn't, and with every passing day she could feel it more and more. She remembered when his eyes used to dance when he saw her. When he used to grab her hand during a commercial and pull her into the kitchen for an impromptu slow dance barefoot on the cold tiles. She remembered how they once laughed so hard over spilled coffee that they cried, how he used to look at her like she was the entire room. Now he looked through her, or worse, around her, and in the space between their eyes, something unspoken was growing. It wasn't hatred, it wasn't even anger, it was absence. That's what hurt the most. Not what was said, not what was done, but the lack. The blank spaces where love used to live, the silence behind his eyes. And every time she caught his glance slipping away again, her chest tightened just a little more, like grief, but slower. It happened on a Tuesday. No thunder, no flash of light, just a sound. Anna was sitting alone in the guest room, staring at the window. She wasn't doing anything in particular, just watching the afternoon sun dance across the floorboards. And then, tick. She blinked. Tick, tick. Her head turned slowly toward the wall clock above the door. It was faint, distant, but real. She closed her eyes, afraid to breathe. Tick. There it was again. And then something else. A voice, muffled, barely audible, but undeniably a voice. A man's, Daniel's. She could hear him speaking in the hallway outside the guest room, and just like that, after 4 long weeks of silence, sound returned. But Anna didn't run down the hallway. She didn't call out. She didn't cry with joy. Instead, she stayed still, very still, because the first words she heard weren't, "I'm so glad you're okay," weren't, "I missed your voice." They were, "It's honestly peaceful when she can't hear." Her stomach turned. The joy of hearing again was swallowed whole by a new sound, betrayal. And so she said nothing, not to Daniel, not to Grace, not even to her doctor. She kept the truth locked tightly inside her. Because now she had something more important than hope. She had leverage. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop. Anna was walking toward the kitchen, holding an empty teacup in one hand when she heard it. Daniel's voice, low but clear, echoing from just beyond the stairs. She stopped, instinctively. Her heart picked up pace. She pressed her back against the wall and listened. "I'm just tired of pretending." The words hit like a slap. "It's peaceful when she can't hear." Anna blinked. Her mouth went dry. This wasn't a stranger. This was the man who once cried beside her hospital bed, the man who held her hand and said he loved her in writing. Now he was calling the silence peaceful. And then came another voice, Grace. "I told you from the beginning, Daniel, she was never your level. You married down." Anna could barely breathe. Grace sounded calm, almost bored, as if this betrayal had been planned long before Anna lost her hearing. And then the conversation twisted into something colder. "What about the inheritance?" Grace asked. "Has she signed anything yet?" Daniel hesitated. His voice dropped lower. "Not yet. She says she's not ready." Grace scoffed. "Then make her ready. Smile. Be sweet. Put the papers in front of her and just wait. She'll trust you. She always does. If she's really still deaf and confused, she won't even know what she's signing." Anna felt her knees weaken. They weren't just talking about giving up. They were talking about taking everything. Her mother's house, her childhood home, the savings account her mother opened when Anna was 10. They wanted it all. and they were smiling while they planned to steal it from her. She backed away slowly, every breath shaky and heavy. She didn't cry, not yet, but she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't marriage anymore. This was war. Anna didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't burst through the kitchen and throw the teacup in her hand. She didn't shout, "How could you?" Even though every cell in her body burned for justice, she stayed frozen, back pressed to the wall, eyes wide, heart hammering. She didn't cry, because somewhere deep down, crying would mean accepting it, and she wasn't ready to accept it, not yet. She needed to know more. The betrayal alone wasn't enough anymore. She needed proof, details, intent. She needed to understand exactly how far Daniel and Grace were willing to go. What documents, which assets, when would they try again? If she confronted them now, she'd lose the element of surprise. And right now, silence was her strongest weapon. Anna stepped away from the wall slowly, carefully. She walked back to the guest room with the calmness of a woman who had just watched her world catch fire, and instead of screaming, took notes on where the flames started. That's when something shifted. Not in Daniel, not in Grace, in Anna. The woman who had begged the universe to bring back her hearing was now grateful no one knew she had it back. Because now she was no longer reacting. She was watching, calculating, waiting. And the audience watching her, they weren't just sympathizing anymore. They were rooting for her. That night, Anna pulled out an old notebook from the back of her closet. It was dusty, untouched since college. But tonight, it became her weapon. She sat cross-legged on the guest bed, pen poised like a scalpel. At the top of the first page, she wrote in all caps, "Do not forget." And then she began. Tuesday, 7:14 p.m., Daniel came home. No eye contact. Didn't speak. Smelled like cologne I don't recognize. Put phone face down, went straight to shower. Wednesday, 6:48 p.m., he laughed while texting. Didn't look up when I passed. Called me Han. Was that short for Hannah? Thursday, 8:02 p.m., Grace watched me as I signed thank you. She smirked, then whispered something to Daniel while I pretended not to see. Anna filled pages, not just with facts, but with patterns, tone of voice, hand gestures, the way Daniel's left eyebrow twitched when he lied, the way Grace tilted her teacup when she was about to say something venomous. And then she did something else. She went online and bought a tiny voice recorder. One no bigger than her thumb. It arrived in 2 days. She tucked it into the inside lining of her robe. Light, unnoticeable, always on. She wore it like armor. Because if they were going to betray her in silence, she'd make sure their voices were the loudest thing in the room when the time came. Anna wasn't grieving anymore. She was gathering. It didn't take long. Once Anna started watching, really watching, she realized Daniel was getting careless. Almost comfortable in his deception, as if her silence made him invisible too. The first slip came at dinner. He was scrolling on his phone, replying to someone, smiling a little too wide. Anna walked in and placed his plate in front of him. He didn't even look up, just said, "Thanks, Hannah." Anna froze. Hannah? Her name wasn't Hannah. It never had been. But Daniel didn't correct himself, didn't flinch, just kept texting. Anna sat down slowly, her heartbeat suddenly too loud in her ears. And still, she said nothing. She simply wrote it down. The next time, it was the smell. Daniel came home late one Thursday night, later than usual. He didn't offer an explanation. He walked past her with a brief kiss on the cheek and left behind a trail of perfume. Not her scent, not laundry detergent. Something floral, expensive, not hers. She followed him with her eyes as he climbed the stairs, smiling at something on his phone. And then came the laugh. She walked into the living room one evening and found him pacing, phone to his ear. His face lit up, bright, youthful, animated. He was laughing. Full, real, free. And when he noticed her standing there, the smile died instantly. Oh, hey, just work stuff. He turned his back. Anna stood in the doorway, stone still, thinking only one thing. He never smiles like that with me anymore. It happened on a quiet morning. Daniel had just stepped out to get coffee. Grace stayed behind, still in her silky robe, swirling her tea like royalty on vacation. Anna sat on the edge of the couch, pretending to read a book she could no longer focus on. Grace walked in slowly, her heels clicking against the floor. She didn't sit. She didn't even look at Anna. She just stood there facing the window and began talking, not to Anna, but about her. He only married you out of guilt. Anna's spine stiffened. You know that, don't you? Grace continued, still not turning around. You were a charity project, a mistake he didn't know how to undo. Anna said nothing. Her fingers dug into the fabric of her book, not because she was afraid, but because the silence gave her power. Grace sighed as if burdened by having to explain the obvious. He could have had someone brilliant, someone beautiful, someone normal. But instead, he's stuck with a deaf, pathetic little girl who clings to the past. Then Grace finally turned to face her. She smiled, falsely, the kind of smile that cuts deeper than a slap. Honestly, I don't blame him. Anna didn't blink, didn't cry, didn't move. But the rage in the audience, it burned. People watching this moment would want to scream, throw something, defend her. But Anna, she simply closed the book. Calm, controlled. Because she knew something Grace didn't. This was all being recorded. And someday soon, Grace's words would destroy her own mask publicly. Anna didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't pack her bags in a fury. She planned, calmly, ruthlessly, like someone who had already burned the old version of herself to the ground and was now building a smarter, stronger one in its place. The first thing she did was scan every single document her mother had ever left behind. Deeds, trust papers, bank account statements. She photographed them, labeled them, sorted them into folders. Then she uploaded everything to a secure cloud account, password-protected, facial recognition enabled. One copy went to her old lawyer, someone her mother had once trusted. Another to a new attorney, one she found through a friend. A woman with sharp eyes, sharper words, and a reputation for making greedy husbands regret everything. Anna didn't stop there. She printed the most important papers and stored them at the bottom of a shoebox in her old art studio, a place Daniel hadn't stepped foot in for over a year. Then she ordered a prepaid phone and activated it under a new name. She booked a hotel room, small, out of the city, quiet. She paid in cash, registered it under the name Emily Rhodes. And she left the key in a drawer beneath her winter scarves, just in case she had to disappear in 30 seconds or less. This wasn't fear anymore. This was strategy. Anna wasn't hiding. She was arming herself. She still smiled, she still nodded, she still signed thank you when Grace handed her a bowl of soup. But Anna was no longer Anna. She moved like before, soft footsteps, careful glances, silent presence. But in her mind, there was a blueprint. Every move was calculated. Every smile, a mask. She timed their conversations. She tested new recording devices, slipped into coat linings, hidden in flower vases. She practiced a blank face in the mirror until even her own eyes betrayed nothing. Daniel thought she was still broken. Grace still whispered in corners, like the queen of a house she didn't build. But neither of them noticed the prey they thought they had tamed had grown fangs. Every night, Anna reviewed audio logs. She saved files under names like groceries, to-do list, cat photos. She even laughed at their jokes, not because they were funny, but because it made her invisible. And invisible women are the most dangerous kind. They thought she was still deaf, and that's exactly what made her powerful. Anna lit 3 candles, one for the table, one by the stove, and one in the corner, flickering like a warning light no one could read. She cooked Daniel's favorite lemon rosemary chicken. Grace's 2 garlic mashed potatoes with a drizzle of truffle oil. She wore the earrings Daniel gave her on their 2nd anniversary, and the apron his mother gifted her on her first Christmas with the family. Everything about the evening whispered normal, but nothing was. At exactly 6:45, she pressed record on the hidden device beneath the fruit bowl. Her voice was calm when she said, "I'll be seeing a hearing specialist soon. They think it might be reversible." Grace froze spoon midair. Daniel glanced up, eyes suddenly wide. But Anna just smiled. No follow-up, no questions, just another bite of chicken. The room fell into a stillness so deep you could almost hear the clock hesitate before ticking again. Grace cleared her throat. Daniel reached for his wine. And Anna, she raised her glass and said softly, "To health and truth." They clinked glasses, and the storm began, not with thunder, but with a smile. The morning sun spilled golden light across the kitchen table. Birds chirped outside. Coffee brewed. And Daniel sat with one leg crossed, flipping casually through the newspaper like a man who owned peace. Anna stood by the sink watching him. She didn't blink. Today, she wouldn't pretend anymore. She walked over, slowly, deliberate steps, pulled out the chair across from him, sat down. Daniel didn't look up. "You want coffee, babe?" She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned forward, and with a voice calm as still water, she said, "I heard everything." The paper slipped from his hands. He froze. No words, no smirk, just silence. Anna's eyes didn't waver. "I heard you say I was a burden. I heard how peaceful it was when I couldn't hear. I heard you planned to steal what my mother left me. And Grace? She said you married me out of guilt." Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing. Anna smiled, not with her lips, but with her eyes. A quiet triumph. A storm wrapped in grace. "You never asked what I wanted, Daniel, so let me say it clearly now. I want my life back, and I'm taking it." Daniel stood frozen. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. The man who once called himself her protector was now a man exposed. Anna reached into the drawer, pulled out a small voice recorder, clicked play. "If she never hears again, I won't be upset. It's been peaceful. Easy, even. She's just not the woman I married." The voice was unmistakably Daniel's. It echoed in the silence like a gunshot in a chapel. Daniel's face turned pale. He stepped back. "Anna, I didn't mean—" The kitchen door creaked. Grace walked in holding a mug of tea. She paused, sensing tension. Then she saw the recorder. Anna's eyes didn't blink. She clicked play again. "Just get her to sign it. She doesn't even know what it is. My son deserves someone who isn't broken. He gave up his future for her." Grace's voice, cruel and sharp, filled the room. Now it was her turn to go pale. Anna stood tall. "I wasn't deaf anymore when you said those things. I just wanted to see how deep the rot went." She looked at both of them, not with sadness, but with finality. "I've sent copies of this to my lawyer and the notary handling my mother's estate." She paused and smiled. "By the time lunch is ready, you'll both be legally irrelevant." Daniel's shoulders sagged. He looked like a man who had aged a decade in just 5 minutes. Anna didn't blink. She pulled a folded envelope from her coat pocket and placed it on the kitchen table, calm, precise, final. "My lawyer has everything. The recordings, the forged documents, the transfer attempts. If either of you comes near me again, I'll file for a restraining order." Grace opened her mouth to speak. Anna raised her hand just slightly, and Grace fell silent like a guilty child. "This house, it's no longer mine. The name on the deed has changed. By the end of the week, so will the locks." Daniel collapsed into a chair, the same chair where he used to write, "I love you" on Post-its. Now he was staring at the woman he thought would stay broken forever, and realized he underestimated the wrong silence. I may have been deaf for 4 weeks, Daniel. But you were blind the entire marriage. Anna turned, didn't wait for an answer, didn't look back. She walked out, leaving 2 people and a lifetime of betrayal behind. The silence in the house was no longer threatening, it was cleansing. Anna packed without hurry. No panic, no tears, just the steady rhythm of boxes being taped shut one after another. She folded the last sweater, then looked up at the wall. There it was, the wedding photo. Daniel smiling. Her smiling back, a younger version of herself, one who still believed in forever. Anna stepped closer. She stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, "Keep it. Let it haunt this house like a curse." She didn't take the photo. She didn't even touch it. She just turned and walked away. She didn't need it anymore, because now she wasn't leaving as a woman broken. She was leaving as a woman rebuilt, and no framed memory could change that. The car pulled up, a sleek black sedan sent by her lawyer. Anna walked out of the house without a sound. No last glance, no dramatic pause. The sun touched her face, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't flinch. She opened the car door, slid in. The driver didn't ask questions, didn't need to. She looked out the window as the house shrank in the distance. No tears, no goodbye. Just a soft breath, the kind that says, "I survived." In her lap sat a folder. Inside, new identity, new place, a future built not on promises, but on truth. Anna smiled, not because she was happy, but because she was free. They thought her silence meant surrender, that the woman who couldn't hear wouldn't fight back. But Anna didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't even raise her voice. She listened, she observed, and when the time was right, she rose. When a woman goes quiet, don't mistake it for weakness. She might be listening to the very thing that will destroy you. Real love doesn't silence you, it gives you a voice. Anna's story isn't just about betrayal, it's about rebirth, about taking back the power you forgot was yours. And to every woman who's ever been underestimated, remember, the quiet ones don't crumble, they calculate. And when they walk away, they never look back. In life, silence can be survival, but never mistake a quiet person for a weak one. Anna's story teaches us this. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is listen, not react, not scream, just observe. And when the time is right, act with clarity, not chaos. Whether it's love, friendship, or family, real relationships don't ask you to be silent. They honor your voice. So, if you ever feel unheard, unvalued, or underestimated, remember Anna. And remember, your silence can be your strategy, but your voice will be your freedom. If Anna's story moved you, if it made you clench your fists, hold your breath, or whisper, "I would have done the same," then don't scroll past. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next story that just might change the way you see the world or yourself. Because here, we tell stories that whisper the truth before they roar into justice.